Hello, I'm Kristi Posival. I'm 46 years old and I have vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or VEDS. I was diagnosed at age 5 after my father died suddenly. He didn't know he had VEDS and died in our kitchen, clutching his abdomen as my mom and I watched. He was 31 years old. We found out about VEDS from his autopsy. His colon ruptured and the doctors at first were confused by what happened to him. But as they looked at his facial features, his thin skin, the bruising, and other factors, they suspected Marfan syndrome or some other genetic disorder. The doctors looked at me and saw the same indicators. They took tissue samples from both of us and sent them to be tested. Both came back positive a year later. This was in 1980. For the past 46 years, I've lived with VEDS for every day of my life. The condition affects my veins, arteries, muscles, organs, skin, everything. Yet many people look at me and see a normal person. They wonder about the bruises. They question why I can't lift a box over 10 pounds. They see my left leg drags and that I wear thick, thigh-high compression stockings every single day, even if it's 90-degree weather. But most people don't put it all together. They just think I'm clumsy or unlucky, or worse, faking it. Over the years, I've had 9 surgeries and hundreds of stitches and staples. My colon has perforated and been surgically repaired. My stoma scar opens every once in a while and a suture comes out perfectly knotted. My carotid arteries on both sides have dissected, and I had horrible life-altering adenomyosis and finally had my uterus removed. I ruptured my quadricep muscle in my left leg, leaving me with a permanent limp. I have a history of DVTs and PEs. I have sprained and broken ankles, broken metatarsals, dislocated both shoulders and kneecaps. My body creates an intense inflammatory response to trauma, and I produce massive amounts of scar tissue. I tell you these things not to garner sympathy, but to impress upon you that VEDS is a terrible affliction. It affects our lives every day in very meaningful ways. I can't have children. I can't plan for a future more than a couple years out. I hurt all the time. But I look pretty normal, and that's a problem. When I walk into an emergency room, it could easily be the last steps I take. People with VEDS die in the waiting room. That's one reason I live in Baltimore. Johns Hopkins has a special protocol for VEDS patients. We get right in and they do a CT scan before anything else. That protocol could easily be the difference between life and death. Yet I've been to emergency rooms that weren't ready for me. I've sat in the waiting room chair as my colon leaked. I've implored emergency room doctors to skip their regular routines and go right to a CT scan, and I've cried while they've ignored me. I was ignored for hours while I had a PE, and often emergency room doctors accuse us of seeking drugs. We have a lot of pain, but we look normal. We're automatically suspect and not readily believed. When I walk into a doctor's office for the first time and I tell them I have VEDS, I invariably have to prove to them it's real. That's despite the fact that I have a confirmed diagnosis. I have a piece of paper proving my disease. Even then, doctors refuse to believe me. One doctor from whom I desperately needed treatment required me to send another tissue sample to Dr. Byers to confirm my diagnosis. It came back positive again. Perhaps the worst response from doctors is a referral to a psychiatrist. Because we look pretty normal, our concerns and the tension, the depression, the urgency they bring are not assigned to the condition as it is, but to the assumption of some mental disturbance. So when I was asked what would be the one thing that you would ask doctors, all of them, to make life with VEDS more livable, my answer is simply to be believed, to be taken seriously, to have them echo what the doctors at Mayo Clinic said. Kristi's a person who knows more about her condition than most doctors. Listen to her. I'd like to give a special shout out to vascular surgeons, and I'm asking you to become an ally for VEDS patients around the world by creating emergency protocols with your ERs, and consider placing a care flag in your patient's electronic medical record, such as Epic, to alert the emergency department staff to the life-threatening complications a patient with VEDS can have. Together, we can stop VEDS patients from dying in emergency waiting rooms. Together, people with VEDS can live longer, happier lives. Thank you for your time today and for everything you do.